AFL Same Game Multi, he uses the Sportsbet app. Sportsbet, proud supporters of having a crack. Conditions apply.
Imagine what you could be buying instead. For free and confidential support, visit gamblinghelponline.org.au.
Tomorrow, it's Moonee Valley's time to shine in the Festival of Racing for the Group 1 William Reid Stakes.
Imperatrice, 100 to go. Johnny Rocker bravely giving her a race, but it's the Kiwi Wonder. 10 Group 1s.
RSN's Premier Turf team is there for every moment, led by Matt Hill calling and Andrew Bensley getting the latest trackside mail and interviews. While in the studio, John Henry makes sure you hear it all. And in Sydney, it's Golden Slipper Day with 5 Group 1 events on the line. Your station for the Festival of Racing is RSN Racing and Sport in our 100th birthday year.
Upgrade your home with Doors Plus March Madness sale. Save on stunning external or sleek internal doors. Even doors for pets. March Madness savings across the range. Plus, we can fit, paint, stain and deliver. Hassle-free from selection to installation. March Madness on now. Doors Plus. No fuss.
Whether you're on course or punting at home, grab Australia's premium form guide, Best Bets. For over 50 years, it's been racing's most trusted weekly publication. If you love racing, pick up your compact guide today.
Country racing in Bendigo is as real as it gets. At the Bet365 Golden Mile Race Day, Saturday, April 12. Feel the thrill of up-close action and excitement on a day like no other with city racing in a country atmosphere. Enjoy fashion, food and fun at the perfect day out for friends and family. Book your GAs early and we'll chip in $10 for lunch. Conditions apply. The Bet365 Golden Mile Race Day, April 12. Book and find out more at country.racing.com/Bendigo.
On RSN Racing and Sport, it's time for the grey areas with Jason Adams and George Ferrugia.
That kid was a human dynamo.
Are you sure you're talking about George?
George of the jungle, friend to you and me.
Good afternoon, midday on this Friday, and it's time to talk all things at Greyhound Racing. My name's Jason Adams. There's a winter feeling in the air with this crap rain dominating on this Friday morning. And speaking of dominating on Friday, mainly from a social point of view, is my good friend Georgie Ferrugia. How are you, mate?
Good, mate. How are you?
I'm well. What about the Hawks last night? I was in the office this morning and Dan there in the office said they were lucky to win. And he's a Hawthorn supporter. I said, mate, you're taking the P155, aren't you?
Oh, lucky's a bit of a stretch, but there was patches there where Carlton were dominating. Yeah, They just couldn't kick straight, and we just had a little bit more class than them at the end. It's funny, they call them the Hollywood Hawks, but they've had 3 wins, which has been fantastic, but they've slugged out every single one of them. But you just got to bank the wins, bank them.
And as I welcome in our third wheel in John Henry, and
third wheel.
John, his voice sounds a bit different, doesn't it? There's probably people
Georgie.
out there thinking, what's wrong with his vocal cords this morning today?
Limoncello.
Limoncello's the reason.
No, not limoncello. I might
He
have
let
yelled
the cat
at
out of the bag.
I might have yelled at the TV a couple of
Didn't
times.
have kebabs for dinner, did you?
Is Marbiol leading the? Is he in front of the? Is he the Coleman?
The Coleman.
Is he?
Well, we've got one way to find out. We might mention that later on in the show, hey?
Okay. Yeah, we will. We will. Where are we starting? There's a little bit to talk about.
There's a bit to get into. Where do you want to start? There's news this morning relating to the Sandgroper, which of course is the slot race, part of the Western Trilogy over there in WA, which is coming up in, I think it's 4 weeks' time.
Yeah, April 24.
Something around the mark. So
Yep.
Deadly Avengers being announced as Ladbroke's representative. What's your take on them going with the Perth Cup winner from last weekend?
Yeah, probably a safe selection, you'd think. A greyhound with great traits in regards to early speed, Jace. We've spoken about it. Obviously, he's got experience on the track. He's a group winner, so I think it's a nice straight bat play. Is he the fastest dog in Australia? Probably not, but capable of winning a Sandgroper, yes. You? What are your thoughts?
Look, he's not a bad selection, that is for sure. I'm not going to be critical of them for selecting Deadly Avenger, but I just feel like in the slot races that we've seen in recent years, a lot of them have been reactive to results as opposed to what a greyhound impact it can have on the race because of its skill set. I mean, you go back through the slot race winners of recent years, whether it be in the Sandgroper or whether it be in the Phoenix. And I guess of most recent time, Explicit's a very different circumstance because it was basically a dedicated purchase for him.
Yeah.
And there was no deliberation needed. He went on to win it. But you go back through some other winners, and Wow She's Fast was one where in her first Phoenix, she'd won 4 of 6. And going into it, she was unplaced in a Prelude and in a Melbourne Cup heat.
Yeah.
Scalacci won 1 of his past 5. Most recently, running last in the Melbourne Cup heat, went on to win the Phoenix.
So for that one, that was timing as well. Like they went early.
They went early, but at the same time, and this is, I mean, both sides of the fence. In what I'm being critical of, they were that, Ladbrokes, because they based that off results at that point in time. But at the same point in time, it was a masterstroke because although he wasn't raging in form going up to the Phoenix, they still had the greyhound that they knew had the capabilities to make an impact on the race.
The ironic part of all of this, Jason, I don't disagree with what you're saying, is that a couple of the selections that have happened that I thought were either jumping the gun or weren't right timing-wise have gone on to win the race. I thought Wow She's Fast was a bit of a knee-jerk selection after she dominated her maiden, and then she looked like obviously going to be a star, but I thought, wow, is she going to be capable of winning the Phoenix after 7 or 8 starts?
6.
6 starts. I didn't think it was the right choice, and she's come out and won it. So I guess the end result is there's no right or wrong answer with these things, but I can totally get what you're talking about.
Guys, I just want to come in there because the result hasn't been given in the previous program. We have can you believe, we've got a triple dead heat for third at Healesville on that previous.
When's the last time you've been on air and there's been a triple dead heat?
For a place. Mate, I think that's the first time in 10 years.
Wow, okay.
So 2, Paddy Almighty won it at $4.20 and $1.90. 3, Ron's Mistake was second. And 1, 5 and 6, Brendan, Our Boy Maestro and Wandana Lad have had a triple dead heat for third at Healesville.
And Johnny, just before we move on, I think it's really important to read out the exotic dividends for that race as well.
Oh, you've got he's got a nasty streak.
Oh, big time,
George.
Big time. He's just a little
he
bit
knows
on edge
how
at
much
the moment. He's got free.
Okay.
Look at this. There's 6 first 4 dividends.
Okay, the trifecta.
Which one?
231, 137. 235, 105, 236, 106. First fours ending. First fours, 2315, 125, 2316, 213, 2351, 120, 2356, 200, 2361, 148, and 2365, also 148.
Unbelievable.
He's a star.
Unbelievable.
Job's done.
Job's done.
Anyway, just rounding out our discussion, George, on the way slot holders approach these slot races. I mean, you focus on the Sandgroper specifically, which of course is the race that Deadly Avenger is heading towards. I mean, Hector Fawley won 3 of his past 13 going into the Sandgroper, won that. Crumble Manelli hadn't left WA and won a feature at Mandurah. He went on to win the Sandgroper. So I just think sometimes slot holders can be too reactive to results.
Yeah. And Hector Fawley was an interesting one too. Clearly, at that stage, was one of the fastest dogs in the country. Nobody's denying that whatsoever. But I always thought Cannington was one of those tracks that I'd prefer a greyhound that's going to be right up front and humming. And he came from last and won it. So again, greyhound racing has this uncanny ability to throw up some results where, I know he got the run through and then was second and then just blew everyone away. But looking at it this year, that's where I'd be leaning. Are you in the same boat? A greyhound with good early speed and then he's able to be obviously group quality. But I don't want to be caught up in a pack. I just think percentage-wise, you're going to be in a bit of trouble. More often.
And Smooth Plane, possibly a good example of that in the Phoenix. It's all situational based, of course.
One of those greyhounds that still can run 5 seconds flat in certain races, which is incredible. Smooth Plane.
Yep, indeed. All right, that's been the news of this morning. We'll get to a Sandown wrap very quickly, of course. The other things higher on the agenda is the Shepparton Cup on Saturday nights. Of course, we've got a pretty handy meeting at the Meadows as well. George wants to chat about ChatGPT. We've got a Fest of the Week, which is a new segment. He's critical of a driver who was driving a Mercedes this morning, keen to learn more about that. Then, of course, the popular Obscure Outlay, which he's landed over the past couple of weeks. And just before we move on, George, did you hear the outro from Michael Felgate on Racing Pulse before?
No, I didn't. Did he say
Grey area is coming up. Is my mic on, Johnny?
Yeah.
Is my mic on, Johnny? Now we're back on.
Yeah, no, we're on.
Yeah. Anyway, good as gold. Anyway, he's thrown out saying Corey Smith and George Ferrugi coming up for grey areas. I've been on the tram. I've been on the tram and been labelled James Vandermart. And now being labelled Corey Smith.
They want to forget you,
Is this a sign of my physical appearance and the way it's trending?
No, I just think it's just you're just having a bad run at the moment, mate. But you'll be
bad
fine.
run.
You'll be fine.
Hope the boys aren't listening. Anyway, Sandown last night, there was obviously some really ordinary conditions leading up to race one. It absolutely pissed down, and that's what can happen in Melbourne, let alone in Springvale, where I've been at Sandown a number of times and it's poured down way more than anywhere else. But we had an interesting conversation off air, George, about in thoroughbred racing, we know when it hits the fan weather-wise and the camps have an opportunity to scratch. Now, you've got a point of view that you wouldn't mind seeing greyhound participants have the option to scratch after a downpour like we saw.
Look, the track staff do an unbelievable job, but sometimes Mother Nature intervenes and it can get really wet. And my only point to you off air was, if you're an owner or a trainer of a very, very fast greyhound who's very, very valuable, should you be allowed the option to scratch if you think it's way too wet or, these type of things? You think no, but I don't know. It's just something that came into my mind. It's just sometimes dogs are just too... And I'm not saying the track's unsafe, because clearly it's still safe, but...
But that's what you're suggesting. You're saying...
Well, I'm suggesting that obviously running in that sort of weather, it's a harder slog. Might be a greyhound coming back from injury, and you just sort of don't want to put him through it, or he or her through it. So, look, maybe I'm barking up the wrong tree, mate. But
no, I take the stance it's either safe for all of them or safe for none of them.
Yeah, I'm not saying that you have to be a champion dog to scratch. I think anyone should have the option. I just think that, I suppose the danger to that is that then a lot of people will scratch and you don't have a meeting.
4 or 5 dog fields throughout the card, and it makes an absolute mess of everything. And one thing people can sort of get confused about with the rain as well, I mean, having been at Sandown for a lot of those downpours, when it absolutely comes down, it can sometimes firm up the track and make it faster.
Yeah.
As that sustained garbage that we've seen a lot of this morning, maybe a bit heavier than this morning, but when that starts to sit on top, that's ugly. But when it comes down and then it moves on, much better result.
There were some good dogs last night, wasn't there? Some good results. Can we go through a few of these?
Let's go through them, man. And just away from the racing last night, there was a trial after the first of Chatterbug. Did you see that? I didn't know
29.80.
Yeah, 29.80, and he's a greyhound that's broken 30 seconds at Albion Park. So clearly more in the tank, and obviously aiming towards the launching pad. Now, there's a few highlights that come out of the meeting last night. The first of them was the performance of Mr. Nathalia, Daniel Hibbard, calling race 2, where less than a length separated the top 4. Not a lot to talk about from a racing front on that matter, but Mr. Nathalia was very good in that circumstance. Launching pad qualifier, won by Fleetwood Eros.
Yeah, good early speed and held off the favourite Aston Rayner, who looked the winner at certain stages, but Fleetwood Eros too good. I just wanted to make a quick mention of the first winner as well. I think he's going places, Galento, for Paul Galea. I watched that race. I know he had box 1, but first use of the track, 29.55, really good speed. When you're running 5.02s, I think he's got a bit of a future, that dog.
Race 5, first of the quaddie, Colac Kid, 29.3. Geez, he's going well at the moment. Some big performances in the Meadows, and he's backed it up last night at Sandown.
When he gets it right, he really gets it right, Colac Kid, doesn't he? He can really run the hands off the clock. So he beat a good field, and that was a tremendous victory, 29.29, as you mentioned.
Yeah, one you wanted to point out was the win of Navarino in race 6 over the 715 metres. He's a greyhound that's been around for possibly a few years
Feels
now.
Like an eternity.
And still competing at his finest on city level.
Yeah, quickly before we get to Healesville, I got to give a shout out to trainer John Connor. I think he's done a tremendous job with this greyhound, Jace. He was floundering a little bit there, the greyhound. I think where he reached a grade where it was a little bit too tough, sort of mid-year up until October. I think he won 2 out of 18. John's reinvigorated this greyhound and given him a crack and a new lease of life over 700 metres, and he's very competitive over that distance. So a shout out to John. I think he's done a terrific job.
At the boxes for race 5 at Healesville, favourite is number 2, Frisco Joe at $2.30 for one of the great characters in the game in Jared O'Keefe. Let's get to Victoria Shaw for the first leg of the quaddie.
After all the excitement there of the triple dead heat there for third place in the previous event, but is won by Paddy Almighty. Race number 4. We look ahead to race 5 and they're moving in. Getting set, Frisco Joe is a short price elect for Jerry O'Keefe. Bit of room. He's running from box 2. Hillbilly Lexi is the late scratching from box number 3. And we're getting set here for a start. Good luck, everyone, with the first leg of the main quaddie here at the Ville. We're set for a start. Green light on, ready to run. Frisco Joe, the favourite in 2. And they're often chasing in. Frisco Joe, a fair start. Good speed the inside to Socks and Slides. A nice getaway there is Deal Closer. Destiny Lorenzo across the track runs Black Kabang. The widest runner now is Regal Phonic getting out in front. It's Deal Closer tearing up the centre of the track. Frisco Joe starts to get into his work on the inside. Socks and Slides. Braemar Sheila across the track. Braemar Sheila. Frisco Joe put the foot down and won. Frisco Joe, a nice win across the track. Braemar Sheila into second. Now in third place was Socks and Slides. Deal Closer. Out depth there was Black Kabang. Regal Phonic, one of the widest runners. Destiny Lorenzo just behind them there. And the run to the line, 19 and 83 for Frisco Joe. Well, there was an air of confidence about Jerry O'Keefe this morning in the cafe here at Healesville. And well done, Jerry. 2 from 4 in third place, number 1. And fourth place is number 7. 2, 4, 1 and 7. 19 and 81 the time. The run home in 13 and 20. 1.5 lengths by 1 1/4, 1.5 by 1 1/4, 19 and 81 the time. Certainly a nice run over the 300 recently in 16 and 99. And a fairly moderate time previously here at the track of 20 and 12. And
so thanks, Vic. It's 2, 4, 1 and 7. And number 2, Frisco Joe, started favourite out of the 2, $2 and $1.30. Number 4, Braemar Sheila, $1.40. 1 Socks and Slides, $1.40, and 7 Deal Closer. The Quinella, $6. Exacta, $67. The Trifecta, $23. Victoria Shaw's first 4 from her selections in the race, $112. Well done, Vic. And the running double, a pair of 2, $6.40, gents.
Thank you, Johnny. Speaking and wrapping up what was a good meeting at Sandown last night, George. Last leg of the quaddie. Do you want to move on to that now?
Yes, let's do.
Gambella. Absolutely sublime. The third fastest time that we've seen this year, the second fastest greyhound this year, because Flying Zulu's got the top 2 fastest times, and we knew this greyhound was really good. 29.0 is good? I'm not sure, but we know now.
Yeah, look, 29.78, I think, to win her maiden final at the Meadows when she first started. So we knew her ability, and this lends itself to your theory about when it rains, the track can be nice and still can produce fast times, but I think she's pretty special. She's only had the 13 starts. Her last win came in November. I was checking out her form and some of her runs, but when she gets clear running, this was the race that Explicit was to be in.
Yeah.
And obviously he was scratched.
And just on him as well, there's no issues. He's just withdrawn, and we'll see him go around soon.
Fantastic car. So 29.03, unbelievable from Gambella. Interesting to see where we see her next.
It'll be in 2 weeks' time and ahead of the launching pad.
Yeah. Yeah, so look, she's, as I said, she hasn't, there might have been some injury concerns there. We haven't seen a lot of her, and when she gets it right, she certainly gets it right. So if we can get Gambella, the Brooke Ennis greyhound, Tribeca, if we can get a couple of these, she's that girl from New South Wales. I mean, this launching pad is starting to really, really shape up into a nice race. So congratulations to Anthony Azzopardi, who had a good night, had a winner, Milton Cranberry later on in the program, a greyhound
good-looking dog too.
Going places. So that was a good little meeting actually last night. Yeah.
It was, and plenty of self-indulgence surrounding me on Wednesday's show, George. I'm going to go again because on Sky yesterday morning, I made Zebaraya my best bet.
Good on
of the night. $10 in the 6, back out the 10, and salutes by 3 lengths. Thanks for coming.
For Steve Bruce White, mate.
Yep.
You did better than me, mate. My 2 greyhounds didn't do well, so apologies to listeners. We hope to bounce back tomorrow night, and of course our obscure bet in the AFL.
100%.
Now, what are we running with now?
Well, I reckon we address this text message. Hi, guys. Did you know the new dog track at Ipswich? It's at the Q. We'll have 10 starters instead of the usual 8, straight track only, from Jared, who's a good contributor to the show. I did know that. It is a trial. I don't think they've settled on it something being permanent going forward, but
it's going to be interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, I have been up there to the Q, and that straight track is so wide. It'd have to be almost double the width of what we know and love at Healesville.
Really?
It's huge.
It'd be interesting to see how greyhounds race on it then, because you see some greyhounds at Healesville that use every part of that track. They just stay out wide, don't go anywhere near the lure. So it'll be very, very interesting. We see in America, they used to race with 9 greyhounds. So
that was on a 2-turn as well.
On a 2-turner. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. When does the queue kick off? It's not long, is it now, before we see this new Premier Track open?
They just started
Queensland?
trialling this week, and I think the first meeting's set for the early to mid part of April.
So far, so good from what I've heard from trainers.
Yeah, I mean, that's always going to happen in trials. Personally, I mean, the same stuff would have been said at Traralgon when that opened, and then it snowballed into a completely different thing. So I'm not saying that's the same situation, no way. But I'm just saying you don't know a lot until they do start racing.
No, you
around
don't.
there.
But I tell you, there has been new tracks that have opened in my time, Jace, where there has been concerns from the get-go. So at least there's been nothing but positivity from what I've heard so far. So hopefully that continues.
Yeah, fingers crossed. And just on that straight track as well, when I was up there, the way they had it set at that point in time, the catching pen was ahead of where the lure disappears. So that's really odd. It should be the other way around. So whether they've changed that since then, we'll wait and see. But if it remains, I think that might be a point of interest.
Yeah, of course. The
shortly after it opens.
Taking over from Albion Park. So it's going to a new swish new joint for Queensland with very good prize money up there as well. They're going well.
Yeah, incredible venue it is. We'll move on now to the Shepparton Cup tomorrow night, George, and we briefly touched on it on Wednesday, and mainly from a point of view of reviewing the heats. But now you've had a couple of days to sum up what this race looks like. What do you think's the most likely outcome?
Well, we spoke about Lakeview Emily in the first 20 metres, Jason. I mean, if she pings out like we seen at Sandown when she was running low 28s and even breaking 29, low 29s and breaking 29, she's going to be incredibly hard to beat. And I think the reason you're getting $2 is that sometimes you can get a Lakeview Emily who can just dwell a little bit. She's got quick dogs next to her in Leo Bale, Description, Boracay Storm, Slick Badger. The heat's going to be on early, so she's just got to do things right in that first 10, 15 metres, and I think the race is hers. I know we touched on him just briefly, but Slick Badger was really brave to win his heat, wasn't it? That was a really, really good heat win, so we had to mention that. I forgot to mention that on Wednesday, but Boracay Storm, and again, Jace, love his acceleration. I think he's up to this class. $5 is probably, you don't want to take any shorter than that for him, especially where he's drawn.
I think it's okay.
Yeah, so... look, I mean, it's a pretty beige comment to make, I suppose, but if Lakeview Emily jumps cleanly, she's clearly the greyhound to beat from the draw.
If she leads, she wins. There's no doubt about that. But you're right, she's not exactly a greyhound that you've got rock-solid reliability about. So I'll be tipping Boracay Storm from box 4. I just think with the amount of speed and pressure that's going to be on in this race, it's going to be absolutely imperative to step well.
Yeah.
And I think that's something he can do more often than not, compared to his other rivals in the race.
And a shout out to Fernando Phil. He's been such a great Country Cups performer, and he's made yet another final here, and he's drawn where he wants to be. And Zipping Gorillas in the race is a little bit of speed drawn out wide. So, an interesting race. It's not going to be handed to her on a platter, that's for sure.
No, and the two greyhounds at double-figure odds are Leo Bale and Description, where Description can be a bit tardy early, but for Leo Bale, reliable speed. So as much as he is a big quote, can have an impact on the race.
Absolutely, as they always do. So that kicks off at 9:08 tomorrow night, Jake.
All right, let's turn our attention to, as well on Saturday night, the meeting at the Meadows. Well, there's not a lot of headline acts with a lot of other big-ticket items on the agenda for some of our superstar greyhounds around the country, but we do see Hector Fawley step out in race 6. If you're wondering why he's in this Saturday night and he was scratched last week, was typically... when a greyhound gets scratched, you do get a 10-day penalty. However, given it was so hot last Saturday, participants have the ability to scratch without that penalty. So that's why he's backed up so quick, and really interested to see what he does in race 6 tomorrow night.
Yeah, look, it's a good little race. My boy Van Wyck raced really well last week, 29.79. Where's Poppy? We've spoken about her being sort of a bridesmaid to Lakeview Emily in some of those big races. One of my favourites, Orly Bale, Jace in box 4, who can pop up and win this race without really surprising. So where are you leaning in the race? Where does Hector Fawley sit on that first corner? We know what Hector Fawley can do. He sometimes can get the start right. And if he does in this field, it'd be really, really interesting. So I think you were telling me he's trialled well in the lead up to this.
Earlier in the week, I think he's gone around like a rocket.
Yeah.
Which is unsurprising. That's just what he's going to do.
It's just what he does. So, yeah, that's going to be an interesting race. Not a bad little meeting, but that's clearly the race of the night.
Yeah, 100%. I've actually got a best bet tomorrow night for the Meadows,
Oh,
George.
good.
Now
Put yours,
I
and
want
then
to
I'll put
hear
mine.
yours first.
Okay.
So let's hear what you've got.
There's two that I like. Race 7, number 2, Shimmer Stan. I think gets absolute clear running from where he's drawn. Slow beginner in the 1, was really eye-catching behind Van Wijk.
Always is.
Yes.
Who that Shanlin?
And can draw you in. So I'm not saying it can't
it's
win.
a back me next start, dog.
Yeah.
Just don't back her next start.
Yeah. And Dishevel's a slow beginner. I just think that Zipping Kai is the danger in the race, but I think if Shimmer Stan can just get the ascendancy early, he's got a nice record at the track with a good PB, will be hard to beat. Race 7, number 2. And in the next race, race 8, number 1, and not purely, but certainly a box draw helps here, Red Stiletto. Very fast greyhound from Tasmania, group winner. It's come to Victoria. A couple of really nice eye-catching placings. It's up against a greyhound called Fade to Black, who has broken 34 seconds at Sandown. So again, the danger, but I don't like where it's drawn. There's a little bit of speed in the race. I just like where Red Stiletto should sit with a lap out and be hard to beat. So race 7, number 2, race 8, number 1 for tomorrow. You?
Race 7, number 2.
Okay, so we're on
we're
the
teaming
same.
up. The great minds, as we see David Gately and Brad Davison
Yeah.
team up with on a Saturday afternoon.
Only let's hope we get it right.
Looked at it exactly the same way. Who that Shanlin's going to be slow to begin. Dishevel's going to not castle across him as standing. He needs room on the fence to showcase his finest work, so he will get that. And I think he's a massive chance in race 7, number 2, Shimmer Stan. Your other one, race 8, number 1, Red Stiletto. Now, when I think about fancy shoes, I can't help but look under the desk today. Have you got a new set of wheels that are just absolutely sparkling?
My old Timberlands were a little bit worse for wear, and I thought it was time for a new pair. I can't remember the last time I bought
Are they
a new pair
that
of shoes.
new, or do you sit there most mornings and shine them up?
No, they are that new. They'll be here next week, and there'll be tomato sauce or kebab juice on them, mate. So there'll be no problem.
With blisters on your ankles.
Are we doing the obscure bet, or are we waiting? What are we doing?
Just one other point on Red Stiletto. Now, she's trained by Brendan Purcell. Now, I can confirm that Brendan won't be at the Meadows tomorrow night. Because as some people would know, I'm into my simulation motorsport online. And recently, BP's got involved. He's doing a lot more of it. And we're teaming up to compete in the Sebring 12-hour on Saturday night.
Wow.
So he's
Good
sending
luck,
his better half in Emma to
Is
the
there
Meadows.
a market?
No market.
Okay.
This is Tier 3 spectacle.
Wow, we have to go into... Now, talking about technology, can we talk about Chat GPT?
Yeah, what's your deal? What do you want to talk about here?
So just quickly, can you just quickly explain what Chat GPT is?
So for anyone out there, you can go online, you can basically say, I want to know the answer to this, here's the information, I want an essay written, and it'll come out. It's just artificial intelligence running amok through text.
I want to know, and maybe we leave this till next Wednesday, what ways it can help for greyhound racing going forward, because the technology, from what I read, Jason, is going through the roof and improving every single day. So I had a friend of mine who bought a dog off me and might have a litter out of it. He asked ChatGPT about what sire to use, and it came with this paragraph about, and most of the information was basic, but it was pretty accurate too. So it's just incredible to think that an AI, I mean, I'm not saying that greyhound trainers and breeders are going to be doing that, but there's no getting away from this technology going forward. I even heard a podcast about how even at draft combines, where they can sort of look at how a person's running and work out the injury percentage going forward. Like, I mean, obviously in sport things happen, but it's incredible how AI might give people a 1% advantage. Maybe it's something that's already happening in horse racing. I don't know, because they're ahead of the multi-billion-dollar company industry. But I just thought I've never heard that before. So, using AI to select a sire for a broody, it's incredible.
And don't think there's people out there who aren't using it for punting advantages as well, or identifying how you can do that. You touched on the obscure outlay. What have you got for us?
I'm backing up. Pardon me. I'm backing up with Collingwood at the line. They were -8.5. They're 10.5. I think they'll win tonight. I'm going to throw them in a multi with Port Adelaide, who will just beat Richmond, and we're shopping it around the $2.15 mark. So Collingwood at the line into Port Adelaide. And I got a sneaky suspicion, just one more, Jace, that St Kilda will cover their line at around 25.
Who are they
points.
playing?
Geelong at Telstra Dome. At
Telstra
Etihad.
Dome, Colonial Stadium.
At the Colonial Stadium.
Yeah.
So that's the obscure bet, the Collingwood into Port Adelaide at the line.
All right, no
Good luck
worries.
for you, John.
What do you want to do?
Guys.
We've got bugger all time here. You wanted a new segment called Fest of the Week.
I got 2 Fests of the Week. So we're
Do you
going to
wanna do
talk
that?
about some racing confessions, I think, next week. Some people that might have cashed out and lost tens of thousands of dollars by chickening out. But there is a great account on Twitter called Festhole where people can just confess anything they like and be anonymous. So I'll just go through 2 quickly. I once rigged the results of a charity dog show because I had a one-night stand with the owner of one of the dogs and she was going to tell my girlfriend. I think that's really funny. Second one, I gave my husband a lift to work and when he left the car, I noticed he had tucked his shirt into his undies and they were on show. I was about to warn him, but then stopped myself because 10 minutes earlier he criticised my driving. So just little things like that. There's some that we can't say on air, but racing confessions, we'll touch on that next week.
And quickly, they're at the boxes at Hillsville. What happened with this Mercedes driver that you saw this morning? What sort of people are around you in Essendon?
He wore a towel on his head and was doing push-ups in the bushes. It was the weirdest thing I've ever seen in my life. So be safe out there, people. There's some weirdos there.
Unbelievable. Getting loaded. George, thank you. Johnny, thank you. Next up, Andrew Bensley with the Friday Feast. Here's Victoria at Hillsville.
In 6, and Troy Akamichi in 7. Fair bit of speed from the centre you'd expect here in this event as the amber light still flashes, now green. Cruella box 5, Viking box 8, both well supported. Green light on and they're off and chasing, and a good start from the centre. Cruella out in the deep Viking. Troy Akamichi, Cyclone will with plenty of pace. And have a look at Special Cyan, put the foot down and go forward. Cruella just off into second there. Cyclone will up the centre of the track. Joining in now is Easy Pie, first mate back on the inside. And Maxi M Grand last of all going to the line. It's Troy Akamichi over on the outside, and Troy Akamichi gets in. Troy Akamichi from a fast finishing first mate, possibly there from Special Cyan and Cruella. Tight go there for the miners again here at Hillsville. Viking out in the deep. Cyclone will. Easy Pie. Maxi M Grand last to greet the judge. 19 and 95. Well, it's fair to say I'm fairly confident about Troy Akamichi, but as for second and third place again, very tight go here at Hillsville. 19 and 92 the time. The run home in 13 and 32. And number 7, Troy Akamichi for Mary Blake. Nice run. Officially second, number 2, First Mate. 7 from 2 as we await third and fourth place. Certainly working our judges here hard today at Hillsville. 7, 2 and 4, 7, 2 and 4. And just awaiting fourth place, 19 and 92 the time. 7, 2 and 4, and fourth in, number 5, Cruella. 7, 2, 4 and 5. The run home in 13 and 32. A half length by a head. So certainly another competitive finish here at Hillsville. 7, 2, 4 and 5. The run to the first mark in 6:60 and the overall race time in 19 and 92. Well, Troy Akamichi with a good PB here at the track of 19 and 46, that still stands. But a big congratulations to Mary Blake at North Bendigo, the black son of Feral Frankie from Lady Pandora. Owned and raced by A. Blake. Congratulations all around. And that is start number 43 for win number 5. Track and distance 24 innings now for 4 victories here at Hillsville. Second, number 2, First Mate William Major at Tangel South. The black son of Out of Range from Taylor's Chip, October 21. And third place, number 4, Special Cyan David Plumridge at Scoresby. The dark